Welcome to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy. And today we have a special guest.
It's Haley.
Don't forget to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, and Facebook. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you get the new episodes whenever they drop. And tell your friends as always. Hold on.
Okay.
Before we get started.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Aw, thanks, babe.
26 years together.
Yes, sir.
Good Lord, it feels like 50.
Okay. You could have stopped after that first sentence.
Oh, but anyway, happy anniversary.
You too. Love you.
What better way to celebrate our anniversary rather than telling a murder mystery?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what regular people do, but.
Yeah. And we're sharing it with our daughter.
Yes.
I was about to say 22 years ago was
Yeah.
the best decision you ever made.
Oh, okay.
All right. Thanks for clarifying that.
All right. So go ahead. Proceed.
This is a case recommendation from one of our top listeners. Hey, Miss Parker. She was told about this case when she met one of Dena's friends not too long ago. While this took place in 1998, it goes to show you just how much these cases affect people for years and years. The families, of course, but also friends, co-workers, anyone and everyone who knows the victim will carry the loss with them forever. So we're going to help spread the word. In 2016, Tulsa started one of the nation's only known civilian cold case task forces. It's made up of retired police, DEA, FBI, ATF, all the initials, and all the branches, and they took on the case. So the information we have comes from the original investigation and what has been discovered more recently.
16-year-old Dena was an honor student, straight A's for days, and she played the clarinet in the marching band. She was not a tag-along type, according to her dad. Her parents both say she was more of a leader type. She had to be more upfront and wanted to be a lawyer when she grew up. Her parents, Larry and Diana, had 5 kids from previous marriages, and then, whoops, came along Dena.
Mm-hmm.
She is the only child that the two had together.
When Dena was born, her oldest brother, Jonathan, was 13 years old. He helped babysit her, so the two, they had a really close bond.
They were really close. So in 1998, Dena finished her sophomore year at Webster High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She had a best friend, Brandy, who says that they went to school together from kindergarten to 3rd grade, but really started hanging out in the 7th grade. At this point, they were more like sisters. Brandy says Dena was boy crazy at the time. She was raised in a racing family, so they spent every Saturday night at the Tulsa Speedway. Larry said in an interview that she looked like her mom, but was a daddy's girl. He even pointed out that her initials spell dad. It was at the races where Dena met Sam. He was a good kid and he really liked Dena. He talked about marrying her, but sometime in May, Dena had broken up with him. She was 16, she was boy crazy, and she wanted to explore her options. One of these options had come through the drive-thru at the Arby's where Dena worked. A senior, 18-year-old Michael Converse. He was supposedly quite the ladies' man who frequented Lover's Lane in his red car. Her parents didn't know about Michael, likely because he was older. His father, Robert, worked in real estate, but his true passion was to be a living room preacher. I kid you not, there are videos of him screaming the gospel in front of his fireplace.
Michael was a cashier for Marvin's, a grocery store that was right across I-44 from Arby's that Dena worked at.
Her best friend, Brandy, worked at Marvin's as well. This was during a time of renting VHS movies, and a lot of grocery stores had a video department where you could get your groceries and then rent a movie, literally all in one place. Brandy worked in the video department of the store. On Saturday, June 6th, 1998, the Dean family was heading to the races. But not Dena. She had told Arby's that she couldn't work on Saturdays because of the races, but on this day she had to go in to cover someone's shift. They did allow her to leave early, though, so she could meet up with her family. The family also stopped at the Arby's on their way to the Speedway around 5 p.m. They told Dena to let them know when she was leaving work. Back then, that meant to page them. Remember pagers? Dena got off at 8 p.m., but paged her mom around 15 to 20 minutes before that. When Diana called Arby's, Dena said she could skip the races and go see Brandy at Marvin's. They gave her a curfew of 10:30, exchanged I love yous, and hung up.
Yeah. And Dena got to the Marvins at 8:15. She hung out a little, talked to people because there were other kids from their school that worked there. She told Brandy that Michael wanted to talk to her in the parking lot when he got off work. Brandy asked Dena if she would give her a ride home from work when she got off, and of course, Dena said yes. Dena ran into a family friend, Shirley, and her daughter, Pepper, while they were picking up ingredients for a late dinner. Shirley said that Dena was showing off her new class ring and was really excited. Dena bought a sandwich and left Marvin's at around 10 p.m.
At around 10:30, Brandy came out, ready to go home, and saw Dena's car, but no Dena.
No Dena. Now, most of the stores in the Town West Shopping Center were closing or had already closed, so there wasn't a lot going on in the parking lot. She would have seen her if she was there. She used the payphone and started spam paging Dena, but didn't get a call back. She started freaking out. Shirley and Pepper came out of Marvin's and saw Brandy crying in the parking lot. She told them that she couldn't find Dena, and she was supposed to give her a ride home. Shirley, thinking it was a little extreme for her to be freaking out about a ride, offered to take Brandy home, but Brandy declined. On the ride home, Pepper didn't feel right about that whole situation. She begged Shirley to call Larry and Diana, so when they got home, they did, telling them about Brandy and that she couldn't find Dena. Larry hightailed it to Marvin's. The family car that Dena had been driving was in the parking lot. Windows were down. Her purse and sandwich were on the front seat, but there were no keys, no pager, and no Dena. He used his key to see if the car would start, thinking maybe she had car trouble, but the engine turned right over. He walked the parking lot and even checked the dumpsters along the back side of the building. But there was nothing, and the cops were called.
At first, they thought, like they always do, she was 16. Maybe she just ran away.
Yeah, that's the first thing they always go to.
Oh, it's a boy. She ran away
exactly.
with that man.
Of course.
That's exactly what they thought, yep.
But why run away without the car?
Yep.
Why buy a sandwich and then leave it in the car? Why promise a friend that you'll give them a ride home? That's what stuck out to me.
Exactly.
This isn't indicative of a runaway type behavior, so they have to move on to maybe she was taken. This is right off of I-44, so the fear was that if she was taken, the abductor could have hopped on the interstate and just be gone, like super quick. By 1 a.m., they were treating this like a missing persons case. Her parents say that they got home around 2 a.m. to see if maybe she had come home, but she wasn't there. Immediately, the siblings, other family, friends, everyone was handing out flyers and hanging missing posters. I would like to point out, her whole thing moves on a lot faster than a lot of missing people.
That's true. Well,
because usually it's like 24 to 48 hours before they even do anything.
So they always say that that's a law. That is not a law.
No.
It's absolutely not. And especially for a child. I mean, I can understand for an adult, they have free will. They can leave if they want. But this is a child. And the vehicle that she had was right there. Why run away without that car?
Yeah.
So it was really kind of in their face, and they couldn't ignore the fact that
is
this
true.
definitely looked like a kidnapping situation.
And for the love of God, why are you not answering your pager?
Answer that pager.
I love that. I was like, remember pagers? I was not even there for that.
I remember trying to explain what a pager was to our niece one time, and she could not understand the concept. Why wouldn't they just call? Well, they do when they get the page that they want you to call them.
Oh, I remember when I got the pager with the message option.
Oh, fancy.
Oh,
and
goodness.
So they could either type out the message or they could leave me a message.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are okay. You were balling.
Yeah, this guy was rich.
That was uptown for sure.
That was.
Yeah, that cost a little bit more than the $20 a month.
I paid $8 for mine.
Ooh.
I had the nicer ones.
Yeah, you did. A witness from another store in the shopping center says they saw a young woman standing in the parking lot arguing with someone in a red car. Then the car left and the woman was just gone. By Thursday, the police informed the family that they had switched from looking for a missing person to searching for a body. Diana said that she knew before they even told her that Dena was no longer alive. It would be the next Friday, June 12th, that the body of a young woman was found at what they called Lover's Lane, aka the Hilltop. It's a field roughly 2 miles north of the Marvins. It's at the top of a hill, obviously, on West 49th, and was remote enough that kids would go up there to hook up and party. The body was found about 85 feet from the road and on the other side of a pond. Decomposition was already too far advanced to be able to positively ID right there.
But it was a woman wearing an Arby's uniform. She would later be identified by dental records as 16-year-old Dena.
Right. They could not determine a cause of death, but they knew 3 things. Her jaw was broken. This was a homicide. And she was not pregnant. Her friends would come out and say that Dena was mad that Michael had been ignoring her. So to teach him a lesson, as a joke, I'm using air bunnies there, she decided to tell him that she was pregnant. When he wanted to meet up after work on Saturday to talk about their future, she was going to tell him that this was a lie. But it seems like she didn't get the chance to do that. Or, based on the argument with the person in the parking lot, maybe she did. But at the scene where the body was found, they did something that we don't get to report very often. They collected everything. They wanted to make sure that if there was anything in that field, including trash, that could maybe, possibly be involved with their case, they were going to have it in evidence. Sunflower seeds, cigarette butts, pieces of cloth. But something we do say a lot in these cases. This was 1998 evidence. So while it was tested, testing was not what it is now. So we'll have to circle back on that. Her pager and pager case, yes, it had the lock-in case, just like a phone now.
Beautiful.
Right? It looked like it had been thrown away from the body. The most likely theories are that she was either killed elsewhere and then brought to this location, which they did report that there were no tire tracks to show that she had been driven right to where the body was found. And there were no drag marks to indicate that she had been drugged to this location. So that would mean that more than one person would have had to carry her out there. The other theory is that she was taken here, likely punched in the face, and that's what broke her jaw, and she ran. When they caught up with her, they pushed her into the brush and killed her there. So let's talk about suspects.
Brandy. Police questioned Brandy. She was the last known person to have talked with her that night. So it was suspicious to them that she was so upset so quickly, and they thought that she might know more than she was letting on. It was also kind of suspicious that she wasn't the one to call the family or the police. Brandy says that when Dena didn't show up, she called her brother. He and his girlfriend picked her up. She told them about Dena saying that she was meeting Michael in the parking lot after he got off work. The brother's girlfriend knew Michael and where he lived, so they went straight there.
Michael's mom was the only one home. Michael was bowling, but would be home any minute, so they waited for him.
Yeah, she invited him in.
Mm-hmm.
They just she said they were awkwardly standing in there just waiting, but it was literal minutes before he showed up, like 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh,
So it is kind of weird that Brandy
Didn't call the cops or the parents.
But it says that she waited for her brothers to come pick her up.
Yeah, she called her brother to come
When
give
in
her
the
a ride.
story up top, didn't it say like a coworker took her home?
No. So Shirley and Pepper had been in the store, which are family friends, and they offered her a ride home, but she told them no. And then they're the ones that went home and called.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see, right there, I said once she got home.
Mm-mm.
I thought basically it was like, no, come on. But whatever.
No. She called her brother and waited for him to come get her, yeah.
Now, when Michael did come through the front door, he was surprised to see them there, obviously. He was flushed and looked like he had been running. But Michael said when he left work, Dena wasn't in the parking lot waiting to talk to him, so he left. Angie, Brandy's mom, brought Diana a letter that she had found in Brandy's room. It was a letter from Brandy to Dena telling her to come clean to Michael. Brandy did not visit Dena's family after she disappeared. She steered clear. She said she was made to feel somehow responsible, like it should have been her.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So there was a lot of stuff that Diana was told after Dena went missing that rubbed her the wrong way about Brandy. And plus, Brandy helped keep this secret and all this stuff and never called, never came by the house. So it just built up this like type of animosity or...
Of course.
What are you hiding? You know, it looks suspicious. And
especially
so,
when your kid is missing.
100%.
I could see how you get there.
Yeah, so she did. And they finally spoke because this was in 1998. I think they did not speak again until roughly around 2018.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It was just one of those things where, like she said, she didn't feel welcome to come and talk to the family, and the family was holding this kind of, I wouldn't say a grudge, but these ill feelings towards her based on what they were being told.
Of course.
And so, that's just one of those things that you can't control, but it does affect years and years of this. It's wild.
Yeah, that changes your life.
For everybody. When you watch interviews with Brandy, she is still so emotional when she talks about it because it's been with her just as long. It's going to stay with her for the rest of her life. Now let's talk about Michael. Well, the parents hadn't known about Michael at first. Angie did. She was the manager at Marvin's, so she knew Michael. She also told investigators that Dena was at their house on Thursday gushing about Michael. Come to find out, Dena had called Michael while he was at work that day and told him that she was pregnant. And they found out that he went home from work sick that day and then called in sick the next day too. So that Saturday that Dena disappeared was the first time he had been at work since the pregnancy announcement. Dena gave that letter to the investigators to, investigate. And the police were more than happy to question him. The alibi that he gave the police was he clocked out of work at 10:03 and he got home around 10:15. He changed clothes and went with his brother and a friend to River Lane's bowling alley. They bowled 2 games and then went to a pool hall in Sand Springs to shoot pool for about half an hour. Then he went home to find Brandy and them just before 1 a.m. This timeline has been looked into multiple times. They even traced his steps to make sure, and the timeline is not only possible, it didn't leave enough time for him to do something to Dena, but it was reported that he was given 2 polygraph tests and failed both. The receipt from the sandwich that Dena bought that night shows that she had gone through Michael's lane to buy it, and Michael never went back to work at Marvin's after Dena disappeared. So remember, he went home sick on Thursday, did not show up on Friday, worked on Saturday, and then never went back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They got a warrant to search Michael's car, but found out that it had been sold. That was quick. It was about 3 to 4 months later that they found Michael's car, and it was in his Uncle Stephen's garage. This is Robert's brother.
They did a luminol test on the trunk carpet and it tested positive.
Yep.
Or?
It just lit up.
Okay, so It tested positive for blood.
It lit up in some spots, which is, the problem with this is that a lot of different things can cause that. And they didn't test it.
So So they saw blood?
They didn't test it to see if it was blood.
Oh.
They did the luminol. Yeah.
This riles me up because at first they were doing so good.
Right.
They collected everything, and now they're not going to test everything that's in this trunk too.
Yeah. Well, now we'll circle back to that too, because they did. Now, they did take everything out of the trunk and keep it in evidence. And while Michael and Brandy were at the top of the list at this point, they didn't want to only focus on them.
Okay, now on to Michael's dad and brother. It was around day 4 or so of the investigation that the police talked to Michael's dad for the first time. Robert is a character, to say the least. He has been married 6 times, but he only has the 2 sons. At first, Robert denied even knowing Dena. He told them that he was not at Marvin's that night. He agreed to a formal interview, but only with his lawyer present. And by the time the police got a hold of this lawyer to schedule something, the lawyer informed them there would be no interview, only adding to the suspicion of their involvement. When they went to Marvin's to get Michael's time card to verify what time he clocked out that night, they found out that Robert had come into the store that day after Dena disappeared and wanted Michael's time card. Literally the actual card. And he wanted a pop bottle out of the trash can at the register Michael worked at that night if they hadn't thrown the trash out yet. Okay, dude.
Yeah.
Literally, no, what's the purpose of getting those things if not to keep the cops from getting to it?
Exactly.
They would find out that Robert was at Table Rock Lake in Missouri when Michael called him, telling him about Dena's pregnancy, and he came back to Tulsa. Allegedly, he was at the Marvins that night at the same time that Dena was. He was described by a couple of his ex-wives as a manipulator, angry, and the devil himself. So he sounds like a real peach.
And they did a documentary on this. That's how I can see Brandy's interviews and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like watching it and taking notes, and then I look over and see this face. And I recognize it and I flip it around and show Darren and he's like, oh my God, we know that person. So we actually know one of his 6 wives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was that tied us right on in.
It's hard to realize that this was in Tulsa.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And when they spoke to Michael's brother, he said that Michael got home from work at 10:45, not 10:15 like Michael had said. And that opened up a 30-minute window that was not accounted for in Michael's alibi. So Michael and Robert are looking really suspicious.
Then you got Sam. They had only broken up about a month before she disappeared. Maybe he was mad that she left him for Michael, but Sam had a solid alibi too.
Yeah. Yeah, they looked at him for about a second.
About 2 seconds.
He loved her too much. Let's be honest.
He did. He did care.
Well, he could have loved her
too much. Yeah, a little too much. We've seen it. And then there's Jonathan. Remember her brother? About a year after the murder, they looked into him. To add to the sadness of this case, Dena disappeared on Jonathan's birthday. He said that Dena had babysat his son the night before. She brought him home that morning and gave Jonathan a birthday card. While with him, she said that she had a problem and didn't know how to deal with it. But Brandy had also stayed the night with Dena that previous night, so she was with her that morning. He said Brandy came into the room and Dena stopped talking. He got the feeling that it was either something to do with Brandy or was something that Dena didn't want Brandy to know about. And he has thought of that since that day, saying he wishes he would have made her tell him what the problem was before she left. But to the police, they saw that Jonathan had a history. By the age of 26, he was angry. He stole cars and motorcycles and used meth. So they questioned if Dena's death was due to his drug involvement.
They learned that Jonathan, his sister, and his wife had gone to the place where the body was found the morning after Dena's disappeared.
Yeah, like literally, she disappeared on Saturday night. Sunday morning, Jonathan, his sister, and his wife went to the location where her body was found.
Okay.
Really?
Yes. Yes, because they were looking. Remember, they were all looking for her.
But they went there?
They went there. They're looking for her.
Oh, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't see nothing.
She was not there that morning, he said.
Really?
That makes no... So either she was placed there after, but they had said that she was already decomposing so bad, you know.
Right. But you don't decompose within 12
but that's crazy.
But
But
they
they would have
said
moved a body that's decomposing.
No. They didn't find the body until 4 days later.
Right.
Yeah.
So this was just
later.
the day after she came missing.
Yeah.
So if she was killed somewhere else, they would have still had time to take her out there. The decomposition
That's
was
true,
advanced because of the elements and the heat, and because this was June. So
Yeah.
I'm
it was pretty
wondering
warm.
how, if this was such a popular spot, nobody had seen her beforehand, though.
Well, she went missing on a weekend. I don't think there's a lot of people that go out there on a Tuesday. And
True, but if it had been in the elements so long, how long was it out there?
well, that's what I'm saying. The heat is a different element.
That's true.
So it causes decomposition to accelerate.
Okay.
Yeah. So you go a little faster. And like I said, he said her body was not there at the time. And they did think it was weird that Jonathan didn't let the other women get out of the vehicle. Only he's the one who went out there to look for her. I'm sure it was a safety thing as far as he was concerned. But a lot of people looked at that as like, well, you know, maybe you just didn't want them to see that she was out there. So that's where they're coming from.
Of course.
Now, during a 10-hour interrogation, one investigator said that Jonathan murdered Dena because she wouldn't have sex with him. And Jonathan says he took a swing at that guy. Another theory they provided was that maybe she brought his son to him that morning, and then she threatened to call child services on him because he wasn't taking good enough care of his kids. But regardless of what they were thinking, Jonathan was at the races in Kellyville that night that Dena disappeared. So he has a lot of people who verified his alibi.
Okay, now we're going to get into Steven. This, because there's a lot of people going on
There's
here.
a lot of people, yes.
So, Steven, this is Michael's uncle, or Robert's brother. What brought him into it, besides the fact that Michael's car was found in his garage? DNA. There were 11 cigarette butts taken from the field, and some from Michael's car that were tested. In 2017, they got a warrant for the DNA from Robert, Michael, Steven, and Robert's mistress at the time that Dena went missing. They included the mistress because in 2017, she was the current wife of Robert, and there was a cigarette butt that had an unknown female's DNA. While the male DNA was not a match to Michael or Robert, it was close enough to be a close relative to Robert. So that's why they went back and got the DNA from Stephen. When they went to get the DNA sample, they found out that Stephen was in the hospital, so they went there. Reports say that while collecting the sample, Stephen said something interesting. They won't say exactly what he said, just that he made a spontaneous utterance that police were happy to hear. I have not seen anything reported to the public about the DNA results.
Yeah, they haven't said if his DNA was that DNA.
Mm-hmm.
They also got some tips from witnesses after all those years. Really, it took you guys that long?
Yes, it does sometimes.
Good
Yes.
Lord.
Mm.
So
I
what
know.
did he say? So what did he spontaneous
They have
utter?
never said.
They don't
They've
know.
never said. They can't
Well, not
because
they
it's
don't know. We don't know.
it's
Horse
still
shit.
it's still an active investigation. So some stuff they cannot say out loud.
Whatever.
Until they figure out if it's actually like evidence or
Right.
Okay.
So if once they do like an arrest and they get charges filed and they start going to court and all that, then they can start putting things in their court documents,
Okay.
like discovery, and
Yeah.
then that's when we'll find out.
But
It
then you
happens a
get
lot.
witnesses from now.
Years. Yes.
Now you get witnesses in 2017.
Yes.
That's my only problem because there's that one case that you guys are doing soon that has to do with that girl who said, "Oh, it happened like this," but that's not what was recorded. It's things change.
Yes.
In people's minds, especially after 20 years.
Yes. But then how truthful is it?
But
Because
still, where,
Exactly.
But even at that, it's like, where was these witnesses in 98?
There's no way it took you 20 years to get the confidence
Just-
to say, "Hey, this happened."
Just to
True.
come out. You know what I mean?
maybe they were scared.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't know why they're not now.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, they did come forward. According to News on 6, there were 6 witnesses who came forward. Now, try to follow me on this, because they don't list names because obviously they're protected. Witness 1 told Witness 5 that Robert showed up at their house that night that Dena disappeared, covered in mud, saying he needed his clothes washed. It was said on the documentary that the clothes were reportedly washed at his mistress's house. So that's another reason that they DNA tested his current wife, because when this
Okay.
happened, she was his mistress.
Mhm.
And now, 20 years later, how many years later? 30? Oh, how old am I?
Oh, please.
But now she is his wife. That's the same woman. They think that she's not being very forthcoming. And then also in the documentary, they showed that they got her DNA along with Robert's cell phone and her cell phone so that they could pull the data. Witness 2 said that Stephen stormed into Robert's house and shoved him up against the wall, threatening him if he ever talked about what happened to Dena. So Witness 5 flat out says that Stephen and Robert committed this murder. They provided details not released to the public. They said that when Robert learned Dena was pregnant, he rushed from Missouri to Tulsa that night to confront her. So it is believed that the motive for her death was that fake pregnancy, sadly. Not out of fear of criminal punishment, because the consent age in Oklahoma is 16. So Michael would not have been criminally punished for impregnating a 16-year-old when he was 18. But it is more along the lines of the religious angle, and that it was not what he envisioned for Michael's life, to be a father so young and conceiving out of wedlock.
Every year, the family puts on a barbecue in Dena's memory. They said they will keep doing it until they can't anymore and they get her killer. Then, instead of just barbecue, they will have a party.
Big one.
Yup.
Well, why wouldn't they? I mean,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And every year, one of the local news reporters, Lori Fulbright, covers it. The task force even has her release information from time to time, trying to stir up new information and tips. In 2021, one of the task force members told 2 News, "We're very close and miles away. We know the facts that we can prove, but there are not enough facts there at the moment." They said it's a very small suspect pool, and they're keeping up with all of the people that had anything to do with it. And there have still been no arrests to this day.
None. Now, this information that we're getting, this documentary was from 2018 or 2019. showing what they've done. But they just created this task force in 2016. So all this information, all this DNA testing, all this kind of stuff, it's all happened several years ago. So why is there still nothing? That's my question. Either the DNA didn't come back the way they thought it was going to, or maybe they got tips on a new angle and they're trying to work that to build up a case. But the last they said on that documentary was they were getting this stuff ready for an indictment.
Really?
So if they were trying to get stuff ready for an indictment in 2018, we're now 6 years later and nothing.
Yeah.
So it's really weird to me. And when you were talking about the testing out of that trunk, they did take a box out of that trunk, like a file box.
Oh, okay.
And they brought in a DNA expert, and she noticed that there was like some water damage to the bottom of the box, thinking that it might be where maybe they like took everything out to put the body in, then cleaned it, and then put that stuff back. So one of the things that they tested was that cardboard box. And we still don't know what was found on the DNA for that box. Yes, if it was blood, if it was just cleaners, like what was it?
I just want to know what he said.
I want to know what he said too. What is a spontaneous utterance that would have them so happy?
That?
Unless it was a full-on confession.
I have a question. Is that exactly how they put
That's
it?
because I put the quotes. Yeah.
I was going to say,
That's
if
what
that
they
was
said.
you, then bravo.
No.
Because here I am wondering.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. My bad. Now, in 2023, Diana told news reporters, I have 3 other children that I ignored basically for the last 24 years. Last year, I made an adjustment in myself. Larry and I are no longer together. We are divorced. And with that divorce comes the realization that I was just living for Dena. I do feel that someday it's going to break. And I have come to the conclusion that if God wants me to know what happened to Dena, then he's going to help me find that justice. It goes to show how much something like this can affect your rest of your life.
Oh, 100%.
Her whole life since this day has been living to get justice for Dena. It's just so sad. But she did say that if you want to help, you can donate to that cold case task force by contacting the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office. This team does not get paid for their work. And all of the investigating, DNA testing, all of that costs money. So they can only do so much with what little they have.
Well, I mean, I would think that they, with it being cold case task force tied to Tulsa County.
Yeah, they work out of Tulsa County offices, yeah.
I would think they would be,
You'd think they'd get some kind of government funding.
Exactly.
I get at least one call a week asking if I'll donate.
I mean, I understand that this stuff usually probably costs more than what they're granted every year.
Of course.
Right.
And
that's
everything. And I
probably the
understand that.
problem.
And donations do help to push forward with some
True.
other cases and everything.
True.
But I mean, you can't say that they don't get nothing.
So whenever they
That's what
make
she
a
said.
task force like that, they're kind of like, oh, well, this is your thing. You're doing this.
Right. So what it is it's basically, and you can see on the documentary that the current sheriff at the time, Regaldo, I think is what his name was. I know his face. But he is very active. He's right there with them when they're making phone calls.
Okay.
He's very active. But I think this is a way to where they have somebody that can focus solely on this and nothing else.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because, there's task force that are in like LA and, every state has task force and everything and they're funded.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they
and
are.
they still take in donations to help them push forward with, just to give them that extra mile that they need to go.
Right. But this, as I said at the beginning, is the nation's only known civilian cold case task force.
Oh, okay.
So this is literally just people who have retired that just want to keep going and want to help. And that's what they're doing. They're taking their expertise and offering it kind of free of charge.
Okay.
But like I said, the DNA testing and things like that costs money.
I got you.
Yeah.
I do also wonder, just completely off topic, I wonder how her dad's doing because they checked in on her mom, but he said she was a daddy's girl. Like
Yes.
Her initials spelled dad. They
do.
We didn't really get a...
I'm sorry. So Larry was on the video. He was interviewed and stuff, and that's how we know about the dad, her initials spelling dad, and her being a daddy's girl. But since they're no longer together, they did kind of focus more on Diana, because, well, mothers always, I mean, I hate to say it like that, but it's an honest truth. Mothers are generally the ones that they see as
Yeah, that they see
matriarchs.
it kind of like as a different kind of love.
It's a different kind of love. But
I wish they
think
had asked him personally.
they both still go to her grave every like 2 months.
Okay.
They clean it off. They fix it up.
Of course.
So they're both still very active in the case. He was very emotional as well. But most of the stuff came from her.
Right.
So they just kind of focused on her. But yeah, he's still there. He's still doing the most. And he's still very active. That is his baby girl.
Mm-hmm.
If you have any information on Dena's case, please call the Cold Case Task Force at 918-596-5723.
All right, well, that was it for this one. Don't forget to tell your friends, tell your doctors, tell your preachers, tell
your
everybody you know. We need subscribers. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.